It is officially over for Claressa Shields. The absolute crash out of the century just took place, and the fallout is nothing short of catastrophic. We are talking about an immediate, permanent ban from every single future event hosted by Jake Paul's most valuable promotions, a total blackout from major streaming partners like Netflix and ESPN, and a massive terrifying legal storm heading her way because ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER is officially taking matters straight to a courtroom. Did she honestly think she could just walk into a private high-security VIP lounge, physically assault an MVP-signed champion on a global stage and just walk away untouched? The delusions are reaching an all-time high, but reality just hit her like a left hook. Security literally had to drag her out of the venue kicking and screaming while Le'Veon Bell stood there showing more kunas and actual balls than Claressa's own man, Pap, desperately trying to pull her away from the madness. Hey there, it's Anonymous Tea where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello everyone. Welcome back YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an absolute amazing day today. Sending nothing but good vibes, new positivity, and endless blessings to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now before we unpack this absolute disaster, let's handle some quick housekeeping. Anything I say today is strictly alleged and in my very personal opinion. This is for entertainment purposes only, honey, because none of this is personal. The Copyright Act of 1976 is right there in the description box. Now let's get straight into the meat and potatoes of this mess because Claressa Shields just officially blocked her own blessings, threw her entire career down the drain, and left the boxing world completely disgusted. So let us get right down to the nitty-gritty of how we arrived at this absolute disaster of a weekend, because to truly understand the sheer magnitude of Claressa Shields getting completely blackballed and excommunicated from the entire most valuable promotions ecosystem, we have to pull back the layers on a pattern of toxic, unhinged behavior that has been building up like a ticking time bomb for years. This is not just about one isolated incident in a VIP lounge on a Saturday night. No, honey. This is the culmination of years of jealousy, unchecked ego, and a desperate, clawing need for relevance that has finally backfired in the most public and humiliating way possible. For a very long time, Claressa has walked around carrying herself as if she is completely untouchable, as if the rules of professional sports, basic human decency, and corporate etiquette simply do not apply to her. She truly believed she was the smartest person in the room, the ultimate puppet master who could trash-talk entire promotions, alienate corporate broadcasters, and physically assault her peers while facing zero ramifications. But reality has a very funny way of catching up to you when you spend all your time running around crashing out, blocking your own blessings, and sabotaging every single major professional bridge you ever had the privilege to cross. To set the stage properly, we have to look at the deep-seated animosity that has been brewing between Claressa and ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER. Once upon a time they were cool, they were on speaking terms, and there was a mutual respect there as prominent women in combat sports. But the moment a massive, highly anticipated fight between them became a real possibility, the parameters suddenly shifted, which is an ongoing, repetitive pattern with Claressa. The moment the cameras are rolling and the contracts are on the table, she begins to switch up the weight requirements, demands unrealistic purse splits, and moves the goalposts so far back that the fights become impossible to make. We saw her do the exact same foolishness after the Franchon Cruz DAZN fight, where she publicly put Shadasia Green out on Front Street, completely changing what they had already privately agreed upon behind closed doors. Shadasia literally had to take to social media to blast her, tweeting out that what Claressa was claiming on camera was absolutely not what was discussed. Ever since that moment, the relationship between Claressa and ALYCIA became completely toxic. It became on site. It turned into a toxic cycle of cussing each other out in person, throwing shots on social media, and creating endless chaos. A couple of years ago, as I referenced in my previous videos, Claressa actually put her hands directly in ALYCIA's face during a heated confrontation, forcing security to violently separate them before blows could be traded. But while Claressa was busy occupying her time fighting with her family publicly on the internet, burning bridges with her promoters, and watching her music career completely flop and go triple plastic, ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER was making massive strategic business moves. Earlier this year, ALYCIA made the power move to officially sign with Jake Paul's most valuable promotions. MVP is an absolute juggernaut right now, having just secured a historic, earth-shattering $100 million distribution deal with ESPN. They are the ones holding the keys to the future of the sport, and ALYCIA was placed right at the center of that marquee. Back in April, she had her massive headline fight, putting on an absolute clinic of class, showmanship, and athletic dominance. She brought out the legendary Lil Kim for her ring walk, capturing the attention of mainstream media, lighting up the arena, and ultimately winning her fight in spectacular fashion. That entire April card was supposed to be a monumental celebration for women's boxing, but it was unfortunately overshadowed by tragedy when Shadasia Green suffered a devastating, traumatic brain injury during her match, leaving her completely unresponsive and requiring her to be carted off out of the ring on a stretcher. Now any normal, compassionate human being with a shred of empathy would see a fellow athlete fighting for their life in a hospital bed and offer prayers, silence, or support. But not Claressa Shields. The sheer jealousy of seeing MVP promotions dominate the global headlines while she sat at home completely irrelevant drove her straight to the edge. She immediately jumped on social media, going on multiple live streams, posting endless subliminals, and aggressively throwing shade at MVP as an organization. She openly trashed Jake Paul, ridiculed their business model, and made light of the severe medical trauma Shadasia was enduring, all while screaming into her phone camera that she is still the undisputed greatest of all time. It was an absolutely low-down, dirty, and classless display that completely alienated her from the corporate executives at ESPN and Netflix who were backing that event. People in the industry were baffled. Promoters were asking behind the scenes why someone with Claressa's athletic accolades was completely excluded from these massive, $100 million streaming deals, and ALYCIA Baumgardner hit the nail right on the head during a press interview. ALYCIA stated plainly and boldly that Claressa's career is in the gutter because she constantly prioritizes an unavailable, married man over her professional advancement. That married man, of course, is the individual known as Pap, whom Claressa has been entangled with for multiple years in a messy, public situation that has completely derailed her focus. Instead of working with her current promoters at Salida Promotions and Wind Records to salvage her career, book stadium fights, or secure lucrative brand endorsements, Claressa has transformed herself into an online influencer and clout demon, running behind a married man to ensure he stays away from his actual wife, Remy Ma. The distraction reached an all-time high during Mother's Day weekend, where Claressa was legally and contractually obligated to appear at a major promotional event in Detroit to hype up upcoming matches for her own promotion, alongside a highly publicized, paid appearance at Mona's Hibachi in Flint, Michigan. The flyers were active on Instagram up until 2 days before, but Claressa completely stood up the fans, the venue, and her business partners, fleeing to New York at the 11th hour just to play security guard for a married man on his wedding anniversary. This is the exact type of chaotic, self-sabotaging behavior that leads to the total destruction of a person's livelihood. When you spend your life entangling yourself in messy, unstable personal dynamics, that toxic energy carries directly over into your professional environment. Which brings us directly to the fateful events of this past Saturday night, where Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions rolled out the literal red carpet for their massive inaugural MMA showcase. The entire sports world was tuned in, and the crown jewel of the evening was Celebrity Row, featuring icons like Ronda Rousey, David Spade, Michael Irvin, Carmen Electra, and Marshawn Lynch. Everything was running like a beautifully oiled machine, with absolute positivity, high energy, and massive corporate sponsors smiling from ear to ear. Claressa and Pat managed to snag seats right next to rock legend Tommy Lee and his wife, but the production team and the live cameras treated them like they were completely invisible. They were intentionally shut out from the broadcast, ignored by the hosts, and left to sit there in their own bitterness while watching ALYCIA Baumgardner be treated like royalty. The contrast was too much for Claressa's ego to bear, setting the stage for a spectacular, unhinged violent outburst that would permanently alter the course of her career and trigger an immediate legal war. The invisible wall of corporate exclusion was the absolute breaking point for Claressa Shields, and what transpired next in that ultra-exclusive VIP lounge has set off a chain reaction that is currently rocking the entire combat sports industry to its very core. According to multiple highly placed anonymous sources and frantic leaked texts from venue staff that have been circulating behind closed doors, the atmosphere in that room turned radioactive the moment ALYCIA Baumgardner walked in. ALYCIA was floating on the high of her recent victories, surrounded by a heavy contingent of corporate executives, personal security, and high-profile celebrities who were treating her like the absolute future of women's combat sports. Claressa, sitting in the corner with Pap, was visibly stewing in a toxic mixture of jealousy and resentment, watching the very door she had kicked down being walked through by someone she openly loathes. Eyewitnesses claim that Claressa began muttering audible insults, trying to provoke a reaction, but ALYCIA initially did what any classy, secure champion would do. She completely paid her no mind. She kept her back turned, engaging with the Netflix executives who were discussing future documentary projects and massive multi-fight contracts. But when you are dealing with an individual who operates entirely on chaos and clout, silence is the ultimate trigger. The investigative findings from that night paint a truly disturbing picture of what happened when the corporate cameras stopped rolling. According to a series of confidential incident reports submitted to the venue's ownership group, Claressa deliberately navigated her way through the crowded VIP space, bypassing several security checkpoints under the guise of heading toward the main exit, but instead angled herself directly toward ALYCIA's private table. The leaked security footage, which several prominent journalists have viewed but have been legally blocked from broadcasting, shows Claressa getting directly into ALYCIA's personal space, her face inches away, screaming a barrage of unprintable insults. It was a calculated attempt to orchestrate a massive public scene, a desperate bid to hijack the media narrative of a multi-million-dollar Netflix event and center it entirely around herself. When ALYCIA raised her hand in a universal gesture telling her to step back and get out of her face, Claressa lunged forward. Multiple eyewitness accounts verified by mainstream sports outlets confirmed that Claressa violently lashed out, slapping ALYCIA's hand down with immense force, trying to instigate a full-blown brawl right there on the pristine carpets of the luxury suite. The sheer madness of the moment sent shockwaves through the elite crowd. Former NFL star Le'Veon Bell, who was standing just a few feet away chatting with media personnel, instantly recognized the danger of the situation and threw his massive frame between the two fighters. It was a bizarre and telling sight because while Le'Veon was risking his own safety to de-escalate the violence, Pap was reportedly standing in the background, hovering like a ghost, doing absolutely nothing to restrain Claressa or pull her out of the danger zone. Security guards descended upon the scene like a tactical unit, physically grabbing Claressa and dragging her backward as she aggressively kicked, clawed, and screamed that nobody was going to disrespect her. The corporate onlookers, the Netflix sponsors, and the international dignitaries stood there with their mouths wide open, utterly appalled by the ghetto and ratchet display of violence taking place inside a premium corporate environment. Claressa was promptly escorted out of the building through a service elevator, completely ejected from the premises in absolute disgrace, but the damage to her professional reputation was already done. Instead of retreating into the shadows to reflect on her horrific actions, Claressa immediately went into full clout demon mode, launching an aggressive, unhinged disinformation campaign on the internet to gaslight her followers. Because the official camera angles of the altercation were tightly controlled by the venue and had not yet been leaked to the public, Claressa decided to completely invent her own reality. In a move that has left digital forensic experts and boxing fans utterly flabbergasted, she began posting highly sophisticated, AI-generated, and photoshopped images on her social media platforms. These fake images were intentionally crafted to look like authentic, high-definition press photographs depicting Claressa landing a brutal, flush Will Smith-style slap directly across ALYCIA Baumgardner's face. She coupled these fraudulent images with arrogant, triumphant captions, bragging about how she handles her business, calling ALYCIA a little girl, and demanding that the world bow down and respect her timeline. It was a level of digital manipulation and psychological gaslighting so extreme that it instantly backfired, alienating the remaining fragments of her fan base who quickly realized they were being fed absolute fiction just so Claressa could score cheap internet cool points. While Claressa was busy playing digital dress-up with artificial intelligence, the corporate machinery at Most Valuable Promotions was moving with lethal, calculated precision. Jake Paul and his executive team did not hesitate for a single second. Within hours of the incident, they drafted and released an earth-shattering public directive that has effectively changed the landscape of women's boxing forever. The statement was a cold corporate execution of Claressa's professional viability, declaring a strict, zero-tolerance policy for hostile, threatening, or aggressive behavior toward their athletes, staff, and guests. They pulled no punches, calling her behavior outside the ring completely unacceptable, deplorable, and a direct stain on the entire sport of women's boxing. A sport they have spent millions of dollars trying to uplift and legitimize in the eyes of mainstream television networks. The hammer dropped with maximum force when they announced that effective immediately, Claressa Shields is permanently banned from attending, participating in, or being affiliated with any future MVP Promotions event until further notice. This ban is an absolute death sentence for Claressa's mainstream career because MVP is not just some independent local promotional company. They are the gatekeepers to the biggest platforms in modern sports entertainment. By being blacklisted from MVP, Claressa is automatically locked out of any future megacards broadcast on ESPN, and her relationship with Netflix is completely dead on arrival. She has effectively isolated herself on a deserted island, starved of corporate funding, major television dates, and premium network exposure. To make matters infinitely worse, inside sources within MVP have leaked information indicating that major corporate sponsors have already begun reaching out to other boxing organizations, quietly advising them to distance themselves from Claressa to avoid any brand contamination. Her toxic behavior has made her a massive liability, a radioactive entity that no executive in a tailored suit wants to risk their quarterly numbers for. Yet, while her house was burning down to the ground, Pap was seen all over social media, frantically and desperately tagging Netflix and MVP in a pathetic bid for attention, completely blind to the reality that they have been completely exiled from the kingdom. The transition from an undisputed world champion to an internet influenza who is radioactive to corporate money is now complete, and the legal trap is about to spring shut as ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER prepares to launch a counter-offensive that will transition this ghetto VIP brawl into a high-stakes legal nightmare. This indefinite ban from most valuable promotions is only the tip of the iceberg, because the actual catastrophic fallout is just beginning to take shape behind the scenes, and it looks like the legal system is about to do what the boxing world has been terrified to do for years. When ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER stepped up to the microphone and declared to the global media that this entire situation is being handled legally and professionally, she was not just blowing steam on the internet. Behind closed doors, a high-powered legal team has already been assembled, and corporate attorneys are preparing a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit against Claressa Shields for unprovoked physical assault, battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress inside a commercial venue. The legal strategy here is brilliant and devastatingly calculated, because by framing this as an unprovoked attack inside a private VIP area, while ALYCIA was fulfilling promotional duties for her network partners, they are hitting Claressa exactly where it hurts the most: her dwindling finances. The financial crisis currently brewing in Claressa's camp is reaching emergency levels according to several inside reports from sports business analysts. When you are a professional athlete whose primary source of income depends entirely on multi-fight network contracts and high-ticket corporate sponsorships, a permanent ban from major platforms like Netflix and ESPN acts as an immediate financial strangulation. Promoters are already predicting a massive domino effect throughout the entire combat sports industry. Representatives from various global boxing commissions are reportedly launching their own independent probes into the incident to determine if Claressa's professional boxing license should be suspended or outright revoked, due to flagrant code of conduct violations outside the ring. If the California State Athletic Commission steps in and decides to hand down a formal suspension, Claressa will be completely barred from competing anywhere in the United States, effectively freezing her ability to earn a living in the sport that made her famous. But the legal nightmare does not stop with ALYCIA BAUMGARDNER's incoming lawsuit. Let us not forget that Claressa is already walking around trying to dodge a highly restrictive cease and desist order from former opponent Francine Cruz Dezern, who grew entirely fed up with Claressa using her name for cheap internet drama and malicious online harassment. Claressa has managed to put herself in a position where she is facing multi-front legal warfare from the very women she used to dominate inside the ring. While her professional world is collapsing into a heap of litigation, public backlash, and corporate blacklisting, the response from her inner circle has been nothing short of a circus performance. Instead of hiring a premier crisis management firm to draft a formal professional apology to MVP, Netflix, and the fans, Claressa has doubled down on her toxic behavior on social media, continuing to post delusional rants while Pap scrambles across the internet tagging executives like a desperate salesman trying to pitch a product that has already been thrown into the garbage disposal. The public backlash has been completely unforgiving, with sports fans and prominent athletic commentators openly celebrating MVP's swift, zero-tolerance action. For years, the narrative surrounding women's sports has been focused entirely on elevation, class, corporate investment, and mainstream respectability. When an individual single-handedly jeopardizes that hard-earned reputation by bringing street-level chaos, ghetto brawls, and ratchet antics into a luxury suite filled with international media executives and corporate sponsors, the industry protects itself by cutting out the cancer immediately. The financial ramifications are already trickling down to her current promotional representation at Salida Promotions and Wind Records. Sources close to the situation indicate that executive board meetings are happening right now to discuss the liability of continuing to market an athlete who is permanently banned from the premier distribution networks of modern entertainment. Rolling out. This is the ultimate cautionary tale of what happens when jealousy, unchecked ego, and a complete lack of emotional discipline take total control of a person's life. Claressa Shields had the world at her feet, a legendary athletic legacy, and the potential to transition into a mainstream sports icon. Instead, she chose to spend her energy fighting on the internet, mocking severely injured fighters like Shadasia Green, chasing after a messy personal dynamic with an unavailable man, and launching physical assaults on her peers out of pure professional envy. She sabotaged her own bags, blocked her own blessings, and built a radioactive wall around her career that no amount of AI-generated imagery or internet bravado can ever tear down. The end of the road is officially here. The corporate doors have been slammed shut and locked from the inside. And as the legal proceedings begin to unfold in the coming weeks, the world will watch as the self-proclaimed greatest of all time is forced to answer for her actions inside a court of law, completely stripped of her power, her platforms, and her prestige. And that, my friends, is exactly how the self-proclaimed GW officially crashed out of the kingdom, leaving her entire legacy in absolute ruins. The corporate doors are locked. The lawsuits are officially rolling in, and the boxing world has made it clear that nobody is playing her games anymore. She went looking for clout, but all she found was a permanent ban and a one-way ticket to a courtroom. But now, I want to hear from each and every single one of you down in the comments. Do you think the Boxing Commission should step in next and suspend her professional license permanently? Is there absolutely any coming back from a total blackout by MVP, Netflix, and ESPN? Or is her career officially dead and buried? Unleash your raw thoughts below. I need you guys to do me the biggest favor ever. Hype this video like you have never hyped a video before in your life. Smash that like button, share this around, and make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on, so you never miss a single drop of the freshest, most scandalous tea on the internet. As to Essel is finito, it is the end of the line for this video, and I will talk to you guys again very soon.